Hey everyone, welcome back to class. So we're going to jump from the water cycle to the carbon cycle. And we're not going to dive too deep into this. We're just going to cover the basis so that you have a better understanding when we move on to bigger and better stuff later. So carbon is a virtually important molecule in the carbon cycle. It's the most important molecule. It's why we have the carbon cycle. So proteins, nucleic acids, lipids, carbohydrates, and other molecules essential to life contain carbon. It is like the reason we have life, pretty much. So carbon is present in the atmosphere as the gas carbon dioxide, CO2, which makes up approximately 0.04% of the atmosphere. It is also present in the ocean and freshwater as dissolved carbon dioxide. Carbons are also present in rocks such as limestone, CaCO3. So this would be calcium, and I think that's carbonate. I want to say that's what limestone is, CO3 is. Or, y'all can double check me on that one. CO2, we understand you breathe out CO2. So carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas and it traps heat in the atmosphere. Without it and other greenhouse gases, Earth would be a frozen world. But humans have burned so much fuel that there is about 30% more carbon dioxide in the air today than there was 150 years ago. So more greenhouse gases such as carbon dioxide in our atmosphere are causing our top to be warmer. It's causing our atmosphere to be warmer, our overall temperature. So the carbon cycle, it's the global movement of carbon between the abiotic environment, including the atmosphere and ocean, and organisms known as the carbon cycle. So you have carbon in the atmosphere. That's going to come down here to plants which use carbon to make food. They're going to take in CO2 and use cellular respiration to release oxygen and make glucose. So animals eat the plants and take in carbon. Those plants are also, and the animals are going to die, and they're going to release that carbon back into the soil. So you have bodies that are not decomposed after many years become part of the oil or coal deposits. That's fossils eventually become oil. And then you have decomposers break down dead things, releasing carbon to atmosphere and soil. So fossil fuels are burned, carbon is returned to the atmosphere, and then we have carbon slowly released from these substances returns to the atmosphere. So it all kind of shifts around. So photosynthesis. During photosynthesis, plants, algae, and cyanobacteria remove carbon dioxide from the air and fix or incorporate it into complex organic compounds such as glucose, like what I said earlier. Photosynthesis incorporates carbon from the abiotic into the biological compounds of producers. It incorporates carbon from the abiotic into the biological compounds. For producers? That doesn't make sense to me. So, chemical equation for photosynthesis. Memorize this. CO2, carbon dioxide, plus H2O, water, plus sunlight in the presence of chlorophyll, which are like the mitochondria of the plant cell, give you glucose, C6H12O6, plus O2, oxygen. Therefore, we need plants. Don't kill the plants. Trees are good. So, decomposition, animal and plant respiration, soil, microorganism respiration. Many of the compounds are used as fuel for cellular respiration by the producer that made them, by a consumer that eats the producer, or by a decomposer that breaks down the remains of the producer or consumer. The process of cellular respiration returns CO2 to the atmosphere. A similar carbon cycle occurs in aquatic ecosystems between aquatic organisms and dissolves CO2 in the water. So your phytoplankton will take CO2 out of the water, and sunlight and produce food and oxygen that way, just like your land plants would. Too much CO2 in the water will actually make things too acidic. And there's a lot of fishes out there and other marine species that are very sensitive to acidity in water, and it could kill them off or cause them to go elsewhere. So, chemical equation for cellular respiration. Glucose, C6H12O6 plus oxygen will give you carbon dioxide and water and energy, because no chemical equation is fully efficient. So you can't just take glucose and oxygen and just have energy. You got to have byproducts. Water and carbon dioxide are going to be your byproducts here, and energy is going to be your main product. Memorize this. It's good to know. So the process of photosynthesis incorporates the carbon atoms from carbon dioxide into sugars. Animals eat the plants and use the carbon to build their own tissues. Carnivores eat these animals and then use the carbon for their own needs. These animals return carbon dioxide into the air when they breathe, and when they die, the carbon is returned to the soil during decomposition. So you're not necessarily going to take the carbon that you ate and return it to the atmosphere through breathing. It's a byproduct of that. That's getting way too deep into things. Moving on. So, partially decomposed plant remains, coal. Millions of years ago, vast coal beds formed from the bodies of ancient trees that were buried and subjected to anaerobic conditions before they had fully decayed. So, we've got lots of coal mines, all this other good stuff, makes the world go round, makes travel possible. So the oils of unicellular marine organisms probably gave rise to the underground deposits of oil and natural gas that accumulated in the geological past. I say fossils. So coal, oil, and natural gas called fossil fuels because they formed from remains of ancient organisms. Fossil fuels are non-renewable resources because it takes forever for them to form. The Earth has a finite or limited supply of these resources. So the process of burning or combustion may return the carbon in oil, coal, natural gas, and wood to the atmosphere. In combustion, organic molecules are rapidly oxidized and converted to carbon dioxide with water, and water with the release of light and heat. So this before. Anytime you burn something, it releases carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. It takes in oxygen and releases carbon dioxide. So an even greater amount of carbon that is stored for millions of years is incorporated into the shells of marine organisms. When these organisms die, their shells sink to the ocean floor, and sediment covering them then forms cemented together to form limestone. That is true, but you need pressure in there. So when the process of geological uplift exposes limestone, chemical and physical weathering processes slowly erode it away. This returns carbon to the water and atmosphere where it is available to participate in the carbon cycle again. So basically they're saying when you have weathering of rock, that can put carbon back into the atmosphere. That happens with mountains, that happens with volcanoes, that happens on land as well as in the water. So here's a carbon cycle that might be a little bit more familiar with you. We'll start with carbon dioxide in the atmosphere. So carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is used in photosynthesis to produce carbohydrates or glucose and oxygen. So then the plants are eaten by the animals. And then carbon is released into the atmosphere during respiration. Carbon dioxide in decaying matter and waste. And then carbon dioxide in fossil fuels and coal, when those things break down. And then you have your car, and its carbon's released into the atmosphere when fossil fuels are burned. So thus, photosynthesis removes carbon from the abiotic environment and incorporates it into biological molecules, while cellular respiration, combustion, and inversion of limestone return carbon to the water and atmosphere of the abiotic environment. So why is the carbon cycle important? Because I know you've been asking that for the last 11 and a half minutes. Many elements have cycles, but the cycling of carbon atoms is particularly important because through photosynthesis and respiration, it is the way the earth produces food and other renewable resources. CO2 plays a key role in trapping heat in the atmosphere, one of the basic mechanisms behind the greenhouse effect. It's also what a lot of scientists make really good money studying and writing lots of research papers about. And carbon plays a central role in combustion. So through decomposition, it serves as the Earth's waste disposal system. In addition, the carbon cycle is important because carbon-containing gases in the atmosphere affect the Earth's climate. Increased CO2 in the atmosphere has been responsible for more than half of the climate warming observed in recent decades. What do we need to do? Burn less fossil fuels and promote plant life, especially trees. Yep. Thank you. Maybe next time I'll pick a better one. Okay. So, guess what? You got some carbon cycle vocab slides. Same dealio as Tuesday. Just slap your stuff in there. Fill this out. I think I'm going to find a couple worksheets for y'all to do this week, and y'all are good to go. Have a great day. Make sure you get your work in. If you have any questions, let me know. Talk to y'all later. Bye.